On today's episode, we flip the script as Dr. Liz and our producer Rex turn the tables and interview me about my newly released book, Happy Hacks: 101 Science-Backed Ways to Boost Happiness, Reduce Stress, and Build a More Meaningful Life. We discuss why I wrote the book, how it's organized, and some of my favorite happiness hacks, including a few surprising ones that made the list. We also explore why happiness matters in the first place. Research consistently shows that when we improve our own well-being, it spills over into every area of life, including our marriages and closest relationships. If you're looking for simple, practical ways to boost happiness and strengthen your connections with others, this episode is for you. We hope you enjoy the show.
Welcome to Stronger Marriage Connection. I'm psychologist Dr. Liz Hale, along with the very beloved Professor Dr. Dave Schramm. Together, we have dedicated our life's work to bringing you the best we have in valid marital research, along with a few tips and tools to help you create the marriage of your dreams. Okay, Rex, I love that you're joining us today, Rex. Thank you for being my co-host.
Yes, I am the co-host today.
I'm grateful because our very own Dr. Dave Schramm believes that one of the genuine purposes of life is to experience joy. Now, not shallow pleasure alone, but rich, layered joy rooted in connection, which we're all about here, meaning, growth, and love. He's so passionate about the topic of happiness that he spent much of his career as a family science professor, both at Utah State University and the University of Missouri, studying it in depth. Well, after hundreds of hours poring over the research and presenting on the topic, this is what he discovered, Rex. There isn't just one kind of happiness, and there is more than one path to it. And today we're going to take a deep dive into the details in his fresh off the press new book, Happy Hacks. Welcome to the other side of the show, Stronger Marriage Connection, Dr.
Yeah, the tables
Dave.
have turned.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes,
man.
they have.
This is awesome. Yeah. Thanks, you guys, for having me. Rex, I can't wait to, you're filling in my shoes. This is exciting.
Yeah.
Right.
It took forever to get you to schedule this thing. I mean, I tried, and you're a hard guy to pin down.
It
Yeah,
is
that's
hard.
right.
We've wanted to interview you for a long time, Dave. But you did it, our friend. You have written your first book. Now, you have co-written other great books, but your solo work now, Happy Hacks. That seems to echo just who you are at the very core, Dave. Where did your interest in the topic of happiness first begin?
Liz and Rex, and you guys, I think, know this. I have 4 older sisters. I have a younger brother. I have 2 amazing parents. And it's interesting. One of my sisters would write in her letter when I was serving a mission for our church. She would end each letter with a similar line. She would always say, pain is inevitable. Misery is optional. And, that has really stuck with me. In fact, I have a sign here in my office. You can't see it right above me that says choose happy. And I've loved the feeling of bringing happiness to others through service or random acts of kindness. So I feel like this passion for happiness has been with me from the very beginning. And then one of my great mentors, we've had on the show before, Dr. Wally Goddard, has really helped me expand it over the years with his great work. And so I've always been interested in this area. I've done presentations, over 100 keynotes across the country on happy hacks. And now I finally have the opportunity to write the book.
That is very cool. Choose happy, just that sign that you're referring to. Is it a choice, Dave? Do you think sometimes it just comes down to, I'm going to choose to be happy? Yeah,
I think sometimes the happiness can get a bad rap. There's this toxic positivity of just smile, or, even when you're going through sad or really tough times. That's not the type of happiness. I try to make that point right up front, Liz, that this is not toxic positivity, smile, get over it type of a thing. When you're experiencing sadness or anger, go be in those emotions, be all in and feel those, and don't try to make yourself happy. But in any situation, I think that there still is a choice. It's the choice is perspective and how we see our situation. So we can choose to see things from a different lens than automatically the negative lens.
Like, what's the story I'm telling myself about what just happened?
Yeah, that's
right?
exactly.
That's powerful. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Dave.
Dave, after 20 years of studying happiness and family relationships, why a book of hacks? Why did you package it that way instead of maybe something more academic?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed the last 20 years of my job studying and presenting on relationships and marriage education, parenting. Over the last decade, it's really been this focus on happiness. And, years ago, I wasn't sure if I'd ever write a book, to be honest. I have a children's book, some journals that I've published, some textbooks. But during my sabbatical leave last year, I had some time to start getting it all down on my laptop. But it's a process, right? Writing can take a long time. But when I hit my groove, it just started to flow. And doing the research on all this, you can see, for those who are watching on YouTube, I'm in my office here at the university. You can see like hundreds of books on the bookcase here. And what I really wanted to do was take all of this and say, okay, this is what, this on gratitude or this on grit or mindfulness, and put it all together into one. So just before COVID-19, I put together a presentation called Happy Hacks, and then COVID hit, and my presentation on positivity and happiness, it just really resonated with audiences. And so it really took off after that. And since then, like I mentioned, I've given over 100 Happy Hacks presentations all over the country, online and in person. So I thought, I really want to reach more people with this. And so we have so much great research, right? As I look behind me, positive psychology, mindfulness, resilience, stress, family science, that I wanted to summarize it for people in simple, small, science-backed chunks. Because like I mentioned, most books are about one topic. It's grit, or it's gratitude or meditation. So I wanted to take all of it and simplify it. And as an extension specialist here at USU, that's my main job, is to take the research and literally extend it as an extension specialist to audiences. But it had to be in short, simple, helpful ways. Because for one, Rex, I think fewer people are reading books than a decade ago, honestly. And many people, they prefer short, quick pieces of advice. It's the Instagram or the Twitter, the X. We see it on social media all the time. So just short, simple hacks or ways to become better, in parenting or marriage or mental health. So rather than a deep academic piece on theory or neuroscience, I wanted it to be simple and helpful and no academic jargon in it.
Are your books behind you, are they arranged by color?
Actually, a little OCD. Yeah, for those behind me, they're in topic by like marriage and parenting and happiness. And then within those topics, I actually have them by color. Yeah.
I've never noticed that before. Is that something new?
No, yeah, they've been like that. Yeah, but I haven't recorded it all, very much.
Notice that. Good catch there, Rex.
Well, yeah, when he moved, I saw all the yellow and then all the blue and then the red. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. And I've known Dave for several years, and I have to say that his teachings on happiness are infectious. And I remember when I first started working with you, Dave, I was like, you've got to write a book. You have so much knowledge and cool little nuggets about health, happiness, and all this stuff. You have to write a book. And I'm glad that you finally did.
Yeah, it feels good just to get, and I had it in so many different places, Rex, and all these presentations. And I created this curriculum called Road to Happiness and Meaning. And I just put everything that I've ever done or said and try to package it. Again, in simple, readers will find that each hack is only like maybe a page or a page and a half. And I really try to break it down and make it simple.
Yeah, that's really good.
That's what I love about your book, is you can just pick it up and turn to a topic within happiness. Just a quick read here and there. You'd have to go cover to cover, back to front. It's really well done. I love the full title of your book, Happy Hacks. 101, not 100, but 101 science-backed ways to boost happiness, reduce stress, and build a more meaningful life. Can you give us a sense of what counts as a happy hack and how each one is presented?
Yeah. So the word hack itself actually means a creative solution to a challenge or to a problem. So in other words, these are tips to make things more helpful and simple. So each of the 101 hacks are presented in a similar format, right? I start with the title, like, do something creative with your hands. And then the next section for each hack is, what is it in simple terms? So I just share, a couple of paragraphs about what the hack entails. Then for each hack, I share why it works. Again, not in complicated academic detail, but I give the basic science about flow or gratitude or kindness. And then the next section is called Try This Today. And it's literally 2 to 3 or 4 bullets of ideas they can actually do, such as spending time, doodling or drawing or bake something from scratch or building something you enjoy. Then for each hack, I decided to add a what if section, just a few sentences, really. So it's what if you don't consider yourself creative? Then I share something like, hey, creativity has nothing to do with artistic talent. Baking bread is creative, or potting a plant is creative. So it's about the act of making. And then I conclude each of the hacks with a bottom line, just one sentence, maybe on summarizing the hack in simple terms. So each hack is structured the same way on purpose. In fact, this book isn't meant, like you mentioned, Liz, isn't necessarily to be read cover to cover. I want people to explore it, to highlight it, to dog ear it, to try a few, skip some, see what works and feels right. I intentionally avoided the prescription approach, which says, just do this, and then you'll be happy. That doesn't work for everyone. And already I've had people reach out on social media and say things like, hey, I just started the book and I tried the one about going barefoot outdoors on the grass, for example, or getting sunlight first thing in the morning, and I love it. Another person told me he tried the cold shower. He came up to me, he's like, okay, I tried this one for 15 seconds and I hated it, at first, but then he breathed through it and he's going to keep trying it. So, and I also want to be clear, you guys, right up front, this is not therapy. It's not a magical fix for severe, mental health struggles or anxiety, suicidal thoughts, or other serious challenges. I wanted it to be helpful for anyone who wants more happiness in their life and they're open to just tweaking a few things. So some of the inspiration came from one of the reviewers who was kind enough to give me an endorsement in the front. One of my favorite authors, his name is Alex Korb, and he wrote a book a few years ago that I recommend to everyone. It's called The Upward Spiral. And it's about how small shifts can create momentum and changes in other areas of the brain and the body. So I wrote happy hacks for everyone. And I especially think this would be helpful for employees, for example. What a great gift it would make from an HR department or a boss to help their employee improve happiness and well-being, because it may ultimately help the person to become more productive at work.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned years ago that just being happy, there's like a 31% increase in productivity.
Yes. Isn't that crazy? Just from, increasing the positivity. When you have a positive mindset, you view things differently. Yeah, you're more productive and engaged with something. Whereas you're negative, you're much more narrow. You get distracted.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, you do get tunnel vision and you miss all the good stuff. And then it's like what do they call it? A self-fulfilling prophecy. And it just gets worse if you get negative.
Yeah, for sure.
Out of 101 hacks, are there a few favorites that keep coming back to you in your own life?
Yeah, as I was writing this and looking at the research, my mind keeps coming back. My favorites have got to be those that focus on gratitude and kindness. I just love those two topics. For example, Martin Seligman, the father of positive psychology, found that doing a kind act produces the single most reliable momentary increase in well-being of any exercise that they have tested. And they've tested dozens and dozens. So simply doing a random act of kindness for someone doesn't have to cost anything. It's a simple note or a text to your own child or a spouse or partner. Something kind for someone else boosts happiness. And it also ripples because you want to be kind when someone is kind to you. And then the second one, the gratitude, right? I call them cousins because those are so closely related. An entire chapter of hacks, Rex and Liz, just on gratitude. So when I speak and I present the happy hacks, I often share one. It's called text 2 before 10, right? Text 2 people before 10 a.m., just a text of kindness, of checking in, or hey, I heard your mom's in the hospital, or hey, we need to do lunch, or I talk about writing a letter. And I've done this myself to a former coach or a mentor or a teacher, and then being very specific with your gratitude. Or number 54 hack in there, writing down your top 5 people, places, experiences and things. And so again, these are simple little things, little tweaks, but just you have to actually try it, do it, or they don't work.
Makes sense. Because again, whatever you focus on grows, right? That's just
Absolutely. Yeah.
What are your top 5 people, places, or things?
So what do you mean like that? What does that entail, that hack?
Well, like, I was just curious what yours are.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, my family, my parents, Navy, right? My new little granddaughter, she's absolutely there. And places and experiences, for us, Disneyland has to be one of those. It's nostalgia for us. We went there on our honeymoon. We've been back there a few times. I think Lake Powell is just a place for us. Bear Lake, even. It might be Hawaii, and sometimes just in our own home, to be honest, sometimes it feels good just to be home, even if you've been away, something about your own bed. So just jotting. So the practice is what helps us, because you know what people are not writing down, and they're not thinking about when they're writing those things down? Themselves. Their minds are going back in time to experiences and things. And they're literally jotting those down is so good for the brain, because it focuses all on gratitude and happiness.
I love that. Liz, do you have 5 people, places, or things?
I do. So it takes us away from us, right, Dave?
Yes.
You're saying, I know. I think the title of my book might be "Get Over Yourself."
Get over yourself. Yeah.
I'm going to write one. So it is. It's, and that's what I think you're talking about when we talk about the favorite places, people, things. It's those that have been associated with other people, right? Whether it's been extended family, dear friends. Of course, we love Hawaii, and we're really big homebodies. He kind of travels for work, and I love just being here. Rex, what about you, since we're on this?
Oh man. Of course, my wife Jessie, my family. I loved moving out to Utah, and just being out here, and the people and everything has just really been one of my favorite things and places. Working at Utah State, I could go on, but I love thinking about this, because man, it really makes you feel good just to think about, what are the things I really like and enjoy. That's such a great. I'm glad you put that in there.
We'll be right back after this brief message. And we're back. Well, let's dive right in.
Are there any of these hacks you think will surprise people?
You know what? As I wrote this and got started with it, I think that they may be surprised that the first chapter, and in fact, it's about 20% of the hacks in the entire book, focuses on the foundation. And you've both heard me share this many times in our episodes, and it's because I firmly believe it, that a happy, healthy we as a couple starts with a happy, healthy me as an individual. In fact, the first hacks I share, starting in chapter 2, are all about fixing the foundation first. So before I jump into gratitude and kindness, which are obvious ones for building a stronger marriage connection, I start with hacks such as getting sunlight on your face and your eyes after you first wake up, or eating protein early, staying hydrated, getting enough sleep, which starts with stopping scrolling, right? 60 minutes before bed, and dimming the lights an hour before the night before, as well as creating a wind down routine. So really that first chapter, Rex, may surprise people, because it's like, oh, kind of these basics, and it may not be rocket science, but there are some interesting little nuggets in there. They're like, oh, maybe I could tweak this, or maybe, when I get up, going outside even for a few minutes and hydrating first. Those little things actually physiologically, right? Happiness kind of starts with our body and our brain. And so, that may be a surprise for someone, or some of these biological, physical things that we can do.
Yeah, the sunlight, the grass on your feet, protein in the morning. Yeah, those are a little surprising. The doom scrolling. That's first thing. The last thing of the day and the first thing in the morning is not a good way to start the day.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
I also love your reminder that hard things don't have to cancel happiness. In your words specifically, Dave, nobody arrives at the end of a happy life having avoided difficulty. One of the most damaging myths about happiness is that it belongs primarily to people whose lives have been spared the tough times. So what is the key then? If it's not an easy ride, my friend, what is the key?
That's a great question. I think, honestly, Rex and Liz, it depends on the glasses that you wear in your life, meaning how you see the world. It shapes your attitude and your actions. And I mentioned Wally Goddard earlier. He's battled cancer for years, and yet he's one of the most joyful people on this planet in my mind. My mom is also battling cancer, but her attitude and her positive perspective, it's contagious. So adversity and challenges, they have a way of shifting our perspective, either to the negative or to the positive. We see things differently. My wife's brain surgery, I may have mentioned it earlier on some of these earlier podcasts. It was a couple of years after our marriage, and it changed the way I viewed her and I treated her. So we can't control our circumstances or what other people say or do, but we have so much more control over our own attitude and our behaviors.
Yeah, I have to agree that your attitude makes a huge difference in anything you apply yourself to, and just the people around you. Huge difference. Something I really noticed moving out here too, that I love. In the back of the book, you share happy hacks worth watching. Can you tell us about a few of those?
Yeah. This was an interesting chapter to write because the research, it changes so quickly, right? But I wanted to be very transparent about some things that my wife and I do that don't have a ton of research yet, but they feel good to us. And so we'll keep doing them. For example, we were talking about earlier, I share about a vibration plate. I share about red light therapy and saunas and essential oils and a few others. And then I share at the end some what I call happy hack attacks. And these are 10 things that are most likely to rob your happiness. And a few of these are things like comparing yourself to others, right? Rumination and overthinking situation, getting stuck in that loop. I think avoiding difficult emotions, excessive materialism, and the extreme, extrinsic pursuit of goals. And I truly believe that you'll never get enough of what you don't need, because what you don't need will never satisfy you. So sometimes we just get, what are you chasing? And mentioned that on an earlier podcast. What are you chasing in life? And that will really direct, are you pursuing something that is hollow and that is temporary? Or is it something a bit more that brings more meaning in addition to happiness?
So what is a vibration plate? Heard you guys talk about this a little earlier too.
Yeah. So Liz, you've been on the vibration plate wagon. It's pretty simple, actually. It's these little boards. I don't about big enough for your feet, a little bit bigger than your feet. And you stand on these, and now they have all different settings and different vibrations and how fast they go. But essentially, it just goes back and forth very rapidly. Like even when you talk, you kind of sound like a robot. And the idea is that it vibrates and it increases the circulation throughout your body, even muscle and relaxation. Even some people have said, hey, balance, because you're standing on this. You can even try it with one foot, or sometimes I'll even crouch down. I'll kind of do squats on it as I'm doing it. So the idea is that it's vibrating in your body is adjusting to that. So yeah, I don't know. I think more and more research will come out about those, but those are fun. And anyway, it feels good. So if it feels good, I keep doing it.
Very relaxing. Mm-hmm. It's good for circulation. I have a pool of, water, that lovely heavy ankle thing. Cankles is what I have, and it helps with that. I think it was discovered out of NASA, as I remember, for astronauts. Very cool. Very cool. Something else that I found really interesting, Dave, and not maybe all that surprising too, is that people with a strong sense of purpose, you say, extending beyond their own lifetime, show significantly lower rates of cognitive decline and greater longevity. Something about anchoring yourself to something that outlasts you isn't just meaningful, it's life-sustaining. That's beautiful. It's a little overwhelming to me as well. But how do we even begin to think about this, plan for this, examine this?
Yeah. And I know it can sound overwhelming at first, but and when we hear, find your purpose, it can feel like we're supposed to discover some grand, mission. Yeah, big thing. But purpose doesn't have to start there. A good place to begin is simply asking, who or what am I living for beyond myself? Right? For some people, that might be their children or grandchildren. For others, it might be their faith, their community, extended family, maybe mentoring others or serving a cause that they care about, donating blood, all political causes, or creating something that will benefit future generations, even, I think, is part of that purpose. So what the research shows is that when we feel connected to something bigger than ourselves, it changes how we experience everyday life, right? Challenges feel more manageable because they're connected to a larger story. We become more resilient, more hopeful, and more intentional with our choices. Personally, I think hope and faith that extend beyond next year and even beyond this life can provide a powerful sense of a perspective. Again, coming back to those glasses, because perspective changes everything. It influences how we respond to stress, how we treat the people we love, and even how we spend our time. But it's interesting, Rex and Liz, the opposite is also true. Chronic stress and worry and anxiety, excessive, can gradually wear us down physically and emotionally. But purpose acts as a buffer, if you will. It reminds us that our lives matter, that our efforts matter, and that what we're doing today is connected to something meaningful that will outlast us. So I love that idea of that purpose, and it can be different for everyone.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Thinking globally, again, kind of outside myself.
Yes, that is the key. That's kind of this theme, if you will, right? The search inward, turn outward, look upward, press forward that I weave throughout the book. That it's not about us,
or just get over yourself. Right.
Yeah, I love it, Liz. That's your book. That is your book.
There we go, Rex.
I have to agree with the purpose driven thing, because it really makes a big difference when you realize there is something greater than yourself out there. And it gives you more drive and just more energy and positivity. And I like how you said, Dave, it enables you to tackle bigger projects and not just dread them, but to see the importance and your contribution to that.
Yeah, that contribution is important. Absolutely.
We'll be right back after this brief message. And we're back. Well, let's dive right in.
Yeah. So many of these books about happiness are usually kind of fluffy, or they kind of feel impossible to do. You kind of mentioned this earlier. How were you able to compact these into smaller sizes so that, like, busy parents or stressed out professionals could approach this and relate to it and actually do it?
Yeah, Rex. This is very important because we're busier today than ever. I am convinced of that. We're stressed out, overwhelmed. And that's exactly why I wrote about 101 of them, right? Start with what is simple to them, to the reader. And maybe it's pausing to send someone a text of gratitude. Maybe it's just turning off the music in the car and taking some deep breaths. Maybe it's hack number 57 about reframing something from saying, I have to I get to. Just a little reframe there. This is not an overwhelming book. This is science made simple.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Love it. Your 101st hack is especially powerful to me, Dave. What matters most is life right now. Life right now, with all of its difficulties and beauty and unfinished beauty, is worth documenting. It's worth reflecting on, worth sending forward. And you suggest we do that by, let's try writing a letter to self. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, that last one. Liz, that's the exact question most people get stuck on. And it's the first thing that I tell them is what the letter is not. It's not a goal list. It's not a performance of who you think you should be by then. It's not even a pep talk. It's something simpler and honestly more powerful. It's a letter from the person you are today, right in the middle of whatever you're living, to the person who's going to open it. So what do you actually say? I give people 4 honest questions. Okay. Number 1, what's hard right now? Number 2, what are you hoping for? 3, what are you afraid of? All of us have fears. And what are you working toward? And that's the whole core of it, right? Tell your future self what this chapter in your life really feels like, not the polished version, but the real life version of this. And then I add one more, because this is where the deep work happens. Tell them who you actually are right now, not who you wish you were or who you really are in this season, but what you hope is still true when they read it, right? What you hope has changed, what you hope you have the courage to do. And now here's the part I love. So many people freeze and say, I don't know what to write. And I tell them, just start with the truth of right now and trust that's enough. Your future self doesn't need wisdom from you. They need to know who you were. And that's the gift. And the science backs this up, right? Let's see, it's how Hirschfield's research shows that when we actually connect with our future self, when we treat that person as real instead of a stranger, then we make better decisions and we feel more meaning in the present. So the letter isn't just a keepsake. The act of writing it changes how you live today. And then a year or 5 years later, you open it and almost nobody is unmoved by the distance they've traveled. And that's why it's hack number 101. And like all of these hacks, they're like a toothbrush, you guys, really. It only works if you actually use it, right? It's right there. They're right there, but you actually have to try these. And again, not everyone is for everybody, but you actually have to turn the toothbrush on or actually move it back and forth for them to even have a chance.
Mm-hmm. It is a bit of an experiment, isn't it? But it's about consistency when you find those things that do fit, that do resonate.
That's right. Change up your routines and your habits. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't steer a parked car.
Yeah, you gotta get moving. That's right. Gotta get moving.
Dave, this reminds me a little bit of something you've talked about in the past called 2 before 10. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, I present it when I present on stages. This is one of my favorites. I come up with it just years ago, and it's actually really simple. And it's text 2 people before 10 a.m. And it doesn't, have to be 10 a.m., but that just kind of has that jingle to it. It helps people remember. And the text can be really anything. It can, be a check-in. It can be expressions of gratitude. Say, hey, I was just thinking about you. I just need to let you know I'm so grateful for you in my life. Be specific. The more specific, for something that they did the other day or said before 10 a.m., just getting into that habit. People can put it in their phones, Rex, so it just pops up at 8 a.m. Or 3 days a week, right? Or 1 day a week on Mondays. Just try getting in the habit of, again, Liz, this is turning outward. This is not thinking about me, but this is simply asking, who needs a text from me right now? And then notice the nudges and follow the feelings. And you've got to act. You've got to do something about it. When you feel that little nudge, reach out. Just check in with somebody. And it's one of the most simple, I think, of all the things. It takes less than 30 seconds, honestly. Just to check in with something I might also share on gratitude that I discovered. This was pretty interesting, surprising to me. And that is that if something happened, let's say a year ago, 5 years ago, even like 20 years ago, and I remember it, and then I reach out to someone and thank them for that act of gratitude is almost more powerful than a quick thank you in the moment. Hey, yeah, thanks for opening the door. Thanks for doing that for me. Because it happened so long ago and the person is probably not thinking of it, but you were. And so that just means so much more. Like, hey, I remember, 3 years ago, you said or you did this. That's really powerful. So even thinking about things in the far past, it's okay. You didn't blow it. You can still think to thank even years later. And it matters even so much more.
Something that is long forgotten to them, but has never been forgotten to self. Right?
Powerful. Super powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. It really primes. I like how this is cross beneficial because it primes you to be more grateful and to express gratitude and be mindful of the things that people are doing that you might just take for granted. and then really boosting somebody else's day, being like, oh yeah, that was good. I gave you all the winning lottery numbers that day.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, appreciate that.
But yeah, kidding aside, that's really good because I've gotten those kind of messages, and it really does. It strikes a chord, and then it puts a pep in your step, and it gives you want to help people more.
Yes,
stuff.
Yeah,
absolutely. Add that ripple. Yep, it's real.
We really are influential, aren't we? For better or for worse, right? One way or the other. So true. So here, of course, on Stronger Marriage Connection, our focus is on marriage and families. What is another hack or two, Dave, that leave the biggest ripple effect on our relationships? Maybe not just self, but others. And like we said, these are all rippling out. Do you have some favorites?
Yeah. Many of these, as we talk about Stronger Marriage Connection, we're in relationships. And I talk about, things that you can do to strengthen yourself. Some of these, I have a whole chapter on connections and ways to connect, whether it's with friends or with loved ones. So I give a lot of simple little ideas there. I weave in some of the gratitude and the kindness. I come back to those because, man, they work the fastest, Liz and Rex, and they don't cost a thing. For the most part, you can, again, think to thank someone or a smile. Let someone go first, or open a door for your partner or spouse. Compliment them. So starting with something simple and then do more of it. Gottman's, right? Small things often. So you can apply these, the gratitude, the kindness, the ones on connection, not just in your own life, but with your partner as well. So a lot of these are, you can intermix them.
Yeah, I like that. One thing I wanted to ask you, and maybe this is a secret because it's really for Jamie, but I love hearing how she has this special chocolate chip cookie recipe, this beloved, right? And she will make cookies and she will share it with others who might be having a hard time, or just to say thank you, or I was just thinking about you. Does she ever give that recipe out?
Yeah, you know what? I will share it. I can't share it on the air because it's top secret.
That is so fun.
It's the secret is some of the salt and then some of this almond extract. Yeah, that she puts in a little bit. Anyway,
that's just fun to see. When you know someone and love someone and they write a book. I mean, there's just something very tender. It was so much more meaningful to me to read a book. Because I love the author, and know the author, Dave. It just has been very special to me. It was easy reading because of that and just made me smile throughout.
You're very kind. I do try to be, and I do this on stages and stuff when I try to present, just be very personable, be very open, very, very, this is me, this is who you get. So I try to weave some of that personal into it, not make it so sterile. Here's what the research says. Yeah.
Yeah. It shines through all throughout that book.
Oh, thank you.
Do you have any other books you're working on, like a cookbook? Wink, wink, so we can get that recipe.
Yay, that's right. Yeah, put that right. Happy Hacks for Cooks. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I actually have a Happy Hacks for Teachers. It's coming out August 4th. It's 51 hacks for teachers specifically. My dad taught middle school in Springville, Utah for 36 years, and teaching is tough. And it doesn't pay the best, and it's overwhelming and stressful at times. So I put some very specific hacks in there for teachers specifically. And then in October, I have one I'm super excited to launch, and that is Happy Hacks for Moms. And I don't know of another book quite like this one that is aimed at moms, written by a dad, from my perspective. So almost all of them, I start with, this is what I saw at home, either from my mom or from Jamie. And there's even some hacks in there, for dads. Hey, dad, try to see this. This is what she's going through. So again, all science backed, but through my lens of watching my wife through the parenting journey. I really think that this one will be super helpful for moms, and I'm super excited about it. And then others in the works, Happy Hacks for Cancer Warriors is what I'm calling this one. I don't have a date on this. And my mom, sister-in-law, a neighbor, colleagues have cancer. And that is one specifically to those that are battling cancer. And then Happy Hacks for Teens and Happy Hacks for Dads down the road. But I just love this area. So I'll keep writing.
We'll be right back after this brief message. And we're back. Well, let's dive right in.
Like I said earlier, just it's knowing you for all these years. It really is like the stuff you teach really sticks. And I'm glad you're sharing it with more people on a greater scale like this. I think only good things are going to come out of this.
Thank you. Yeah,
There's
thanks, Rex.
so many times that your little happy hacks have applied in my life. I remember a couple of years ago when we first moved to our neighborhood out here. I got a knock at the door, and it was a kid neighbor, and he's like, "Hey, you guys own that white car?" I had to move my car on the road because we were having work done in the house, and I was like, "Yeah, why? Do I need to move it or something?" He's like, "Well, I actually hit it with my bike, and I broke the tail light." And I'm like, "Oh," and I think he was worried. I could tell the kid thought I was going to get really mad. And Dave popped in my head like the great Gadzoo swirling around. And he's like, people are more important than problems. And I was like, I'm sure it's not a big deal. Let me go look. And it was just a little he broke the tail light. Yeah. And I'm like, I can find another one, I'm sure. And his dad came over and said, oh, what can we do? I'm like, I'll just order a new one and send you show you where I can order it. I'm sure I can find a cheap one. And that kid was like, it was a life lesson for him. And he was so happy that it wasn't like this big freak out, terrible thing. And it was a situation that could be easily fixed. And like, I could really credit Dave for that because it was really, people are more important than problems. And it had such an effect on everybody in that situation that thank you, Dave, for sharing that happy hack. That was really good.
Thanks, Rex. Yeah, see, and it's that not even knowing about that, and now you sharing that right here on this. It does. I'm like, that just made my day. So thanks for sharing that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, everything worked out so well.
Isn't that something you tell your kids, Dave, as they left for school in the morning? And remember.
Yep, remember, people are more, and then they'd be like, I know, Dad, people are more important than problems. I'm like, yes, it's sticking. Yeah, such an important principle.
Yeah, it really is.
I love that. You are dedicated, Dave, to making a huge difference for good in this big world, my friend. Your practical habits and hacks are not just for strengthening happiness, but for fortifying our hearts and homes as well. Thank you for all that you share on social media and for putting soul into writing happy hacks. Where can our viewers and gosh darn it, where can our viewers and friends easily find you and your new book?
First, got to express gratitude for you both. This whole podcast journey has been such a meaningful and joyful experience. Yeah, working with you, I consider both of you, just dear friends. So thank you. Right, it's out. Yeah, it just launched. So it's out. Best place is probably Amazon. You can just put in Happy Hacks Schramm, and it should pop right up. It's also available on Goodreads, online at Walmart, BarnesandNoble.com, and also my website, which is drdaveshramm.com, drdaveshramm.com. So yeah, it's out. The ebook is out. It's 99 cents for the next 30 days. Big deal right now on the paperback. So now's the best time to snag it. And man, I just hope that people will honestly leave an honest review on Amazon or Goodreads or BookBub or other places. Pretty please. Yeah, I'd love to hear honest reviews.
My thought was, as I read the book, is like, this be called life hacks, Dave. It just holds so much more than happiness. It's just really how to live a good life hacks, but happiness hacks were for good reason as well. As we prepare to wrap up today, Dr. Dave, we like to ask each one of our guests, as you know, in honor of the name of our podcast, what do you believe is the key to a stronger marriage connection?
Happy hacks.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 2 words. Happy hack. I've been on the other end of asking people, Liz. We've asked, over 180 or something people we've had on this question, and I don't know if there's like the perfect answer, but for me, it honestly comes back to compassion and kindness. I think without compassion, a marriage can't survive, and without kindness, it simply can't thrive. So yeah, compassion and kindness, I think, are important aspect. There are all kinds of important parts of a stronger marriage connection, but for me, it's compassion and kindness.
All right. So, Dave, this of course leads into the next question. What is a take-home message that you want all of us to remember about our discussion on happiness today?
If you remember just one thing from today, listeners, let it be this. Happiness isn't something that happens to lucky people or wealthy people. It's something that you build, right? We spend so much of our lives waiting for it to arrive, the right job, the right relationship, the moment life finally slows down. But the research is clear, and that is the happiest, most resilient people aren't the luckiest ones. They're the ones who keep making small, intentional choices day after day, often in the middle of messy, imperfect, ordinary life. So here's the good news. You don't need a different life to be happier. You need a few small hacks and the willingness to start, and you can start today, right now. So go build something great.
And Liz, what about you? What is your little nugget from today?
I love that Dave just talked about, when life is messy, right? When things don't go the way you want them to or expect them to, like today for us during this interview. My computer just kept shutting down. We couldn't finish the interview. We had to take a half-hour break, and my husband, Ben, thank goodness, is in the house and could bring up my laptop so that we could at least finish this interview. And when the most important interview that I felt like I've done is for my friend, Dr. Dave, and yet this big glitch happened right in the middle of it. And isn't that interesting? We're talking about happiness hacks and the perspectives that Dave talked. I love that. It is really, life is happening while you're making other plans kind of thing, but it is what story you're going to tell yourself about. And that recovery and focusing on people are more important than problems. What could be a little bit of a breakdown is kind of a breakthrough on and what's really important. So I love that. I love about the perspective, Dave. I think that's just my favorite nugget. Rex, what about you? What's your favorite piece of the interview today with Dr. Dave on happiness hacks? What are you taking away?
Like I mentioned earlier, it was definitely people are more important than problems. But the two main pieces I picked up from this today is that Dave said this very early on, is that misery is optional. And that is so true. And though it's hard to remember when you're going through a situation, it definitely is optional. And I think if you realize that, it can calm you down and help you get through anything. And the other thing was something you mentioned, Liz, that you got earlier was hard things do not have to cancel out our happiness. And that is so simple yet profound in that there's so many times you run into a situation or I get tasked with something that I'm like, this is going to be difficult. And you kind of lose sight of, yeah, but you don't have to not be happy in this difficult situation. And I think that's just beautiful. Those two things are what sticks out to me.
I got that. Hacks, I got that from Dr. Dave himself. Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you, Dave, for sharing the complete and final truth on happiness. You've left us inspired and driven to reduce stress, increase joy, and live more meaningfully. We are blessed by you, my friend.
You guys are very kind. Thank you. It's been a joy, to be on this side of the mic. And I truly just hope that it will help brighten someone's day and make a happier world.
I guarantee it will. I guarantee it. But for now, listeners, that's it. Thanks for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you on another episode of the Stronger Marriage Connection.
Yes, we do. And remember, it's the small and simple things that create a stronger marriage connection. Take good care of yourselves and each other. See you soon.
Bye now.
Thanks for joining us today. Hey, do us a favor and take a second to subscribe to our podcast and the Utah Marriage Commission YouTube channel at Utah Marriage Commission, where you can watch this and every episode of the show. Be sure to smash the like button, leave a comment, and share this episode with a friend. You can also follow and interact with us on Instagram at Stronger Marriage Life and Facebook at Stronger Marriage. So be sure to share with us which topics you loved or which guests we should have on the show next. If you want even more resources to improve your marriage or relationship connection, visit strongermarriage.org. where you'll find free workshops, e-courses, in-depth webinars, relationship surveys, and more. Each episode of Stronger Marriage Connection is hosted and sponsored by the Utah Marriage Commission at Utah State University. And finally, a big thanks to our producer, Rex Polanis, and the team at Utah State University, and you, our audience. You make this show possible. The opinions, findings, conclusions, and recommendations expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the views of the Utah Marriage Commission.